Arlen stepped off the shuttle with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The Intergalactic Defense Academy floated high above the planet's surface, a massive structure of shining metal and glass. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered around it, and beings from countless worlds walked through the halls. Some were tall and muscular. Others had wings or multiple limbs or skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Arlen felt small and ordinary compared to them. He was human. Humans had been traveling among the stars for only a few generations, and their bodies were not naturally strong or fast like some of the other species. But Arlen had something they did not: determination. The shuttle doors hissed open, and a young alien instructor waited at the exit. He had 4 arms, violet eyes, and skin like polished copper. "Welcome, human," the instructor said in a smooth, musical voice. "You will find the training here unlike anything on your planet. We do not take excuses." Arlen nodded firmly, holding his small backpack tight. He had dreamed of this moment since he was a boy on Earth, reading stories of humans exploring the stars. Now, here he was, ready to prove that humans were more than fragile beings. The first walk through the academy halls was overwhelming. Everywhere Arlen looked, creatures practiced drills, lifted weights, or ran through obstacle courses that defied gravity and logic. He saw a being with 6 legs leaping over a wall twice as high as he was, and another that could stretch its arms across an entire room to lift objects. Some species could already fly or manipulate energy naturally. Arlen's heart sank for a moment. How could he, a human, compete with this? Then the instructor tapped him on the shoulder. "This way," the alien said, leading him down a long corridor. Arlen followed silently, trying not to look too nervous. He kept his eyes forward and reminded himself that humans had something aliens did not: creativity and adaptability. They may be stronger or faster, but humans could think, solve problems, and endure in ways others could not. They arrived at a large room filled with smooth metal panels, wires, and flashing lights. "This is your first training chamber," the instructor explained.
"Here, we test your strength and endurance, but first, a little adjustment."
He pressed a button, and Arlen felt a sudden pressure in his chest. His knees buckled slightly as the floor seemed to push harder against him. The room had doubled its gravity. The aliens watching laughed quietly. They thought it would break the human quickly. Many humans struggled in normal gravity, let alone twice the usual pull. Arlen blinked, trying to adjust. It was heavier than anything he had ever experienced, but he refused to fall. He slowly pushed himself upright, feeling his muscles strain. He realized he could still move, just slower. Each step was harder, each breath deeper. His heart pounded, but his mind was calm. "I can do this," he whispered to himself. Then, looking at the instructor with determination, he said, "Actually, I want triple gravity." The alien instructor's eyes widened. The other trainees turned, some whispering, some staring in disbelief. "Triple?" the instructor repeated. "You would survive, human?"
Arlen shrugged, though he could feel the burn in his muscles already.
"I want to try," he said. The alien stared at him for a long moment, unsure whether he was brave or foolish. Then, with a quick nod, the instructor pressed a new button. Suddenly, the floor pressed down even harder. Every movement became a challenge. Arlen's body screamed, but his mind focused. The first obstacle was simple: a short climb. Normally, it would have been easy for a human, but under triple gravity, it was a struggle. Arlen gritted his teeth and placed each hand and foot carefully. His fingers dug into the rough metal grips. His legs pumped slowly, deliberately. A single slip would have thrown him to the floor. Sweat ran down his forehead, and his breathing became loud and heavy. But he did not stop. Step by step he climbed. When he reached the top, he looked down and felt a small thrill of pride. He had done it. The aliens watching began to murmur. This human was something else. Next was a test of speed and agility. Small obstacles popped up along a path requiring jumps, ducking, and sidesteps. Arlen's body was heavy and slow, but he remembered something his father had told him on Earth. Use your brain, not just your strength. He studied the path carefully, noticing patterns. Some obstacles moved in cycles. Some could be avoided by clever timing. Arlen adjusted his movements, sliding under panels and rolling over bumps with careful calculation. Each success gave him more confidence. His body was tired, but his mind was sharp. By the end, he had completed the course, slower than some aliens, but without a single mistake. Several aliens nodded, impressed. The next challenge was the weight test. The trainees had to lift a bar that looked like a normal training weight. For humans, it was already heavy, but under triple gravity, it felt almost impossible. Arlen approached it and felt the strain in his arms and back. But instead of giving up, he bent his knees, kept his back straight, and used leverage. Slowly, inch by inch, he lifted it above his head. His muscles burned, and every breath was a battle, but he held it there for a moment before carefully lowering it. The aliens whispered among themselves. This human was enduring things they had not expected. During a brief rest, Arlen leaned against a wall, sweating and exhausted. He could hear his heart pounding, his lungs struggling for air. But he smiled. He had made it this far. The other trainees were resting, some giving him curious glances. A few even came over to ask how he was holding up. Arlen smiled and shrugged. Humans are persistent, he said simply. Some laughed. Others just stared in awe. Then came the final trial of the day, a combat simulation. Aliens were paired to spar using training weapons that simulated real attacks without harm. Arlen was paired with a species twice his size, strong and fast. The gravity pressed down on him, and every movement felt like lifting mountains. His opponent lunged forward, and Arlen barely dodged. He felt the pain in his arms from previous exercises, but he remembered the human skill of adaptation. Instead of trying to match his opponent's strength, he used their momentum against them. He sidestepped, ducked, and pivoted. Each time, he avoided a blow and countered with careful strikes. Slowly, he learned the pattern, predicting movements and staying one step ahead. The aliens watching whispered, amazed that a human could move so effectively under such conditions. By the end of the simulation, Arlen was exhausted beyond anything he had felt on Earth. Sweat soaked his clothes, his muscles ached, and his lungs burned. Yet he stood, upright, victorious. The instructor clapped slowly, then nodded, remarkable. Human. You requested triple gravity, and you survived. More than survived. You adapted? The other trainees looked at him with a mixture of respect and disbelief. Arlen smiled, catching his breath. This was only the first day, and he knew the rest would be even harder. But he felt a new fire inside him. That night, in the small human quarters of the academy, Arlen lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. His body was tired, but his mind was alive. He thought about the obstacles, the lifts, the sparring, and the aliens who had doubted him. They would remember him, he realized. Humans were different. They could endure, adapt, and overcome. Strength was not always in muscles or speed. It was in the mind, the heart, and the will to keep going when others would give up. He closed his eyes and smiled. Tomorrow, the gravity would be the same. The challenges would be harder, but he would rise to meet them. He was human, and humans had a way of surprising the universe. The next morning, Arlen woke before sunrise. His body ached from the triple gravity exercises, but his mind was already racing with plans for the day. Today, he knew, would not be easy. Word of his triple gravity feat had spread through the academy, and the instructors were preparing a new set of challenges specifically for him. Some aliens were curious, some doubtful, and others openly excited to see what this human could do next. Arlen tied his boots, pulled on his uniform and felt a thrill of determination. He would not disappoint. When he arrived at the main training hall, the room buzzed with activity. Trainees of all species were warming up, stretching their limbs, and checking their gear. The walls were lined with holographic displays showing previous records, and the floor shimmered with energy fields that adjusted gravity levels for different exercises. Arlane felt the gravity pressing down as usual, triple strength, and he smiled. He had adjusted to the feeling somewhat. Every movement was still heavy, but he had learned to move efficiently. The instructor from yesterday, the four-armed alien with polished copper skin, stepped forward. "Today will test more than strength," he announced. "It will test endurance, strategy, and adaptability. Human, your courage is noted, but can you handle what comes next?" Arlen nodded. "I will try my best," he said simply. The other trainees murmured among themselves. Some doubted him. Others looked at him with newfound respect. The first trial of the day was a climbing maze. It was enormous, with walls, ladders, swinging platforms, and narrow pathways. The aliens in the room were built for climbing and jumping, their limbs long and strong. Arlane's human body struggled under triple gravity, but he remembered something important. Humans survived by thinking, not only by strength. He studied the structure carefully before moving. Instead of rushing, he timed each jump, used leverage where he could, and rested briefly on each platform to catch his breath. Several aliens watched him and whispered. They had never seen a human move so deliberately, and yet so successfully. While some trainees relied on raw power to leap across gaps, Arlen used momentum and balance. One swinging platform seemed impossible to reach, but he noticed its rhythm and used a small jump, catching it perfectly. Every time he made progress, a quiet cheer rose from the onlookers. By the time he reached the top of the maze, he was drenched in sweat and breathing hard, but he had completed it without falling. A few aliens even clapped. Arlen smiled, feeling the pride swell inside him. Next, the instructors presented a heavy lifting challenge. A series of large crates, each heavier than the last, had to be carried across the hall. Many aliens simply grabbed the crates and lifted them effortlessly. Arlen could barely budge the first one. He dropped to his knees and thought humans had survived tough conditions on planets far harsher than this. Strength came in many forms. Using clever positioning and his body weight, he shifted the crate in small movements. Step by step he pushed it forward, rolling and sliding it when possible. His muscles screamed, but he refused to stop. Slowly, he moved the heaviest crates to the designated zone. Several aliens stopped to watch, amazed at the persistence of this small human. After a brief rest, it was time for the agility course. Panels of energy appeared in random sequences across the floor, and trainees had to jump, duck, and run without touching them. The course tested reaction speed as well as balance. Arlen felt his legs heavy with fatigue, but he focused. He had learned yesterday to watch patterns carefully. This time, he noticed the energy panels shifted in repeating sequences. By predicting the timing, he moved efficiently, barely missing any step. Other trainees tried to keep up, but many stumbled, overestimating their speed and underestimating the difficulty. Arlen completed the course flawlessly. Instructors whispered to each other. This human was extraordinary. Then came the sparring challenge. Today, the trainees were paired differently. Arlen's opponent was taller, faster, and twice as strong. The combat simulation involved energy weapons designed to test skill and reflexes without causing harm. His opponent lunged aggressively. Arlane's body ached from the morning, but he remembered something vital. Humans adapted. Instead of trying to match strength with strength, he watched, observed, and reacted. Every swing of his opponent's weapon he dodged, sidestepped, and countered using careful timing. Several aliens attempted to predict his movements, but Arlane did not follow a pattern. He adapted. When his opponent tried to push him backward, he used the momentum, twisting and redirecting the force to break free. By the end, he had avoided almost every strike and had scored points in ways the aliens had not expected. The room erupted in murmurs and applause. Even the instructor who had doubled his gravity yesterday looked surprised. "Humans endure," he said softly to another alien, "and they think differently. This is more than strength." After sparring, the academy instructors brought out a new challenge: teamwork under extreme conditions. Aliens paired with humans, humans paired with aliens. Then they had to transport heavy energy cores across a course filled with obstacles. Arlen was teamed with a tall, four-limbed alien named Torin. At first, Torin looked skeptical. "Human, you will slow us down," he said bluntly. Arlen smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe..." The course began. Torin grabbed the core, but it was awkward. Arlen noticed the leverage points and suggested adjusting their grip. The two moved together, Arlen guiding Torin carefully over obstacles. When a ramp was too steep for Torin alone, Arlen positioned himself to push efficiently, using timing and precision rather than brute strength. Slowly, they moved through the course. Other teams struggled with coordination, but Arlen and Torin finished quickly. Torin looked at him with new respect.
"You humans, you see things differently,"
he said. Arlen just smiled, shrugging modestly. The final trial of the day was a combination test. Endurance, strength, and strategy combined. The trainees had to carry a heavy weight across a long path, climb a wall, and complete a small puzzle before returning. Most aliens relied on brute strength and speed. Arlen, exhausted from the day, paused for a moment. His body was heavy and sore, and every movement felt like climbing a mountain. But he remembered the human advantage: persistence, creativity, and focus. He broke the challenge into small steps, one hand at a time, one foot at a time. When his energy waned, he rested briefly and calculated his next move. When a wall seemed impossible, he looked for a small ledge to step on. When the puzzle required careful alignment, he focused fully, ignoring pain. Slowly, steadily, he completed the entire challenge. The aliens watching were speechless. Many had never seen such endurance and cleverness combined. Arlen finished the course last, but the applause was thunderous. It was not about speed. It was about ingenuity, endurance, and determination. By the end of the day, Arlen collapsed on the training room floor, sweating and exhausted. His muscles trembled, and his lungs burned, but a deep satisfaction filled him. He had proven something to everyone watching, and most importantly, to himself. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest species, but they endured, adapted, and solved problems in ways others could not.
The instructors nodded among themselves.
"Remarkable," one said. "The human survives where others fail. There is something unique about this species." As Arlen rested, some trainees came over to shake his hand or ask questions. Even aliens who had doubted him now looked at him with respect. "How do you do it?" one asked. "You make it look easy." Arlen laughed quietly. "It's not easy," he said.
"It's just, we humans never give up.
We keep going." That evening in his quarters, Arlen stretched his tired body and looked out the window at the stars. The academy floated high above the planet, and countless ships passed by, carrying beings from all corners of the galaxy. He thought of the challenges tomorrow, knowing they would be even harder, but he also knew he had proven something important. Human determination could turn weakness into strength, and adversity into opportunity. He closed his eyes, imagining the next day. The obstacles would be greater, the gravity heavier, the expectations higher. But he was ready. Every trial only made him stronger in mind and spirit. Humans had survived countless hardships on Earth and would continue to do so among the stars. And Arlen would be a shining example, showing the galaxy that strength was not always in muscle or speed, but in courage, persistence, and cleverness. Arlen smiled and whispered softly to himself, "Tomorrow, I will show them more!" The morning sun barely touched the horizon when Arlen woke again. His body ached from the previous 2 days of training, yet he felt a fire inside him that no pain could extinguish. Today, the instructors had prepared the most difficult set of exercises yet. Word of Arlen's triple gravity feats had spread throughout the academy. Aliens who had been skeptical now watched him with curiosity, and some whispered about his unusual endurance. He ate a quick breakfast and prepared for the day, feeling both nervous and excited. When Arlen arrived at the main training hall, he was surprised by what he saw. The entire floor had been transformed. Obstacles of every shape and size covered the room. Some floated in midair, suspended by energy fields. Others spun, rotated, or moved in patterns that seemed impossible to predict. The walls were lined with panels that could change positions at a moment's notice. Instructors explained that today's exercises would test not only strength and endurance, but also quick thinking, adaptability, and teamwork. Arlen glanced at the other trainees. Many were already struggling to complete even the first few obstacles. Some fell, some slipped, and others moved too cautiously to make any progress. The aliens who had excelled in strength were surprised to find themselves challenged by the complexity of the course. Arlen felt the familiar weight of triple gravity pressing on him, but he smiled. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. The first obstacle was a series of moving platforms suspended high above the floor. Each platform shifted, rotated, and tilted unpredictably. Aliens with long limbs and extra arms leapt easily from one to another, yet many misjudged the timing and fell. Arlen studied the platforms carefully. He noticed patterns in the motion, small repetitions that others had overlooked. Instead of rushing, he timed his jumps and movements precisely, conserving energy wherever possible. Step by step, he crossed the platforms, balancing with care. By the time he reached the other side, instructors nodded in approval. Some aliens whispered among themselves, astonished that a human had completed the challenge without falling. Next came the strength test, designed to challenge even the strongest trainees. Large, irregularly shaped objects floated in midair, each requiring not only lifting strength but also balance and coordination. Arlen approached the first object and felt the weight pressing down on him. His arms shook, his legs strained, but he refused to give up. He bent his knees, adjusted his grip, and used his body's leverage to move the object step by step. Slowly, inch by inch, he transported it to the designated zone. Every move required careful thought. He could not rely on brute strength alone. His human persistence shone through as he completed the task, exhausted, but triumphant. After a brief pause, the instructors announced the next challenge, a puzzle maze. The trainees were required to carry heavy energy cores through a labyrinth of walls, traps, and shifting panels. The cores were large and awkward, and the maze demanded both logic and physical endurance. Aliens with superior strength often ignored the puzzle and tried to force the cores through walls or gaps. Many failed. Arlen, however, took a moment to observe. He studied the layout, predicted the shifts, and planned his path carefully. He moved slowly, adjusting the core's position with precision. Each step required concentration and patience. By the time he reached the exit, several aliens were already cheering. Arlen had not only completed the maze, but had done so efficiently. The next trial was a combat exercise, unlike anything Arlen had faced before. Trainees were paired with opponents of equal or greater size and skill. The goal was to simulate real combat scenarios, testing reflexes, endurance, and adaptability. Arlen's opponent was a tall, four-limbed alien with sharp reflexes and incredible strength. The moment the exercise began, the alien lunged forward with lightning speed. Arlen felt the familiar strain of triple gravity, but he relied on his training. He dodged, ducked and rolled, using careful timing and observation rather than attempting to match his opponent's brute force. The alien attacked again and again, confident that Arlen would tire. Yet each time, Arlen used his opponent's momentum against him. He sidestepped a strike, guided the alien past a hazard, and delivered precise countermoves. Slowly, the instructor's eyes widened. This human, small and seemingly fragile, was holding his own against a far stronger opponent. By the end of the exercise, Arlen had scored several points and avoided almost all strikes, completing the trial with skill and ingenuity rather than sheer power. The room erupted in applause, and even his opponent gave him a respectful nod. After combat, the trainees faced a teamwork challenge. Aliens and humans were paired to carry multiple cores through a complex course filled with moving platforms, rotating barriers, and gravity shifts. Arlen was paired with a large, muscular alien named Vorin. At first, Vorin doubted Arlen's ability. "You cannot keep up," he said bluntly. Arlen smiled and nodded. "We will try together," he said calmly. The course began. Vorin grabbed the cores and started moving quickly, but the heavy weight and shifting obstacles made progress difficult. Arlen observed carefully and suggested small adjustments. "Shift your grip here," he said, pointing to a specific angle. "Move slowly on this section. It swings." Vorin followed his advice, and they moved efficiently, completing sections of the course faster than several other teams. When a swinging barrier threatened to knock them off a platform, Arlen calculated the timing, pushing Vorin just enough to clear it without wasting energy. Step by step, they navigated the course. By the end, they had finished with a record time. Vorin looked at him with amazement. "You're thinking it makes a difference," he said. Arlen just smiled, modestly proud. The final trial of the day combined all previous challenges: strength, agility, puzzle solving, and combat under extreme conditions. The instructors raised the gravity slightly higher, a test even more challenging than triple. Arlen felt the weight press harder, his muscles trembling, but he refused to stop. He broke the challenge into parts, moving with care, conserving energy, and thinking ahead. Whenever a puzzle appeared, he paused and analyzed it. Whenever an obstacle required climbing or balance, he studied the pattern and timed his movements precisely. When a combat simulation began, he dodged and countered with efficiency and skill. Hours passed. Arlen's body ached. His breath came in gasps, yet he continued. The other trainees struggled, some giving up or moving too quickly, causing mistakes. Arlen pressed forward with patience, persistence, and intelligence. When he finally crossed the finish line, the hall erupted in cheers and applause. Instructors, who had designed the most difficult trials in Academy history, looked astonished. One of them, the four-armed, copper-skinned alien, shook his head.
"This human, he endures when others fail.
He adapts when others falter. There is something extraordinary about him." As he sat to rest, Arlen reflected on the day. He had been exhausted beyond anything he had imagined. Every muscle screamed, every joint protested, but he had endured. He had completed challenges no human was expected to survive, all while thinking carefully and adapting to the conditions. His determination had carried him through what brute strength alone could not conquer. Other trainees approached him, curious and respectful. One young alien asked, "How do you do it? You move as if gravity does not weigh you down." Arlen smiled. "I do feel it," he said, "but I keep thinking, keep planning, and never give up. Humans survive because we find a way, even when things seem impossible." Even some instructors nodded in approval. "Humans are remarkable," one said quietly. "Their bodies may be weaker, but their minds and persistence make them strong beyond expectation." Arlen felt a quiet pride. He knew he had proven something important, not just to the aliens, but to himself. Humans could endure, adapt, and survive challenges that seemed impossible. Strength was not always measured by muscle or speed. Sometimes it was measured by the ability to keep going when the world pressed down on you. That evening, Arlane lay in his quarters, staring at the stars. The academy floated high above the planet, glowing under the light of distant suns. He thought about the day's challenges, the obstacles, and the aliens who had doubted him. They had all witnessed the human ability to endure and adapt, and he knew they would remember it. But Arlen also thought about tomorrow. The instructors would surely devise even more difficult tests. The gravity might increase, the obstacles could become more complex, and the expectations would rise. Yet, he felt ready. Humans had survived countless trials on Earth, from harsh climates to disasters, from hunger to isolation. In space, they would face new challenges, and some would doubt their abilities. But Arlen had learned something vital. Humans thrived, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they never gave up. They adapted. They planned. They endured. And in the right moments, they could surprise the universe. Arlen closed his eyes, smiling faintly. Tomorrow would be harder, yes, but he would rise again. Every challenge was an opportunity. Every obstacle, a chance to show that human determination could overcome even the impossible. The Academy might have designed the trials to break him, but he had learned that the human spirit could never be crushed. And as the stars twinkled above the Academy, Arlen felt a quiet certainty. Humans had a place among the strongest species in the galaxy, not through brute force, but through courage, intelligence, and persistence. And he, a single human trainee, would continue to prove it, one challenge at a time. The morning air in the Academy was tense and electric. Arlen stood at the entrance of the final training arena, feeling the weight of triple gravity pressing down on him. Today's challenge would be the greatest yet. The instructors had prepared a combination of every trial he had faced: climbing, strength, agility, puzzle solving, and combat, multiplied by difficulty. Trainees whispered among themselves. Some doubted they could complete the course, even with full strength and skill. Arlane took a deep breath, feeling exhaustion from the previous days, but also a surge of determination. He had come too far to stop now. The arena doors opened, revealing a massive course that stretched higher and wider than anything he had seen before. Platforms floated at impossible angles. Walls shifted unpredictably. Energy barriers glimmered in sequences that seemed random. Heavy objects awaited those who needed to move them. Holographic creatures simulated combat opponents at every turn. The instructors raised the gravity slightly higher than before, making every step, every movement, a struggle. Arlane swallowed hard but smiled. He could do this. The first obstacle was a vertical climb, a wall taller than any he had ever faced, covered with moving panels and rotating bars. Aliens with long limbs and extra appendages leapt easily, yet many misjudged the timing and fell. Arlen studied the wall carefully. He remembered his lessons: patience, observation, and planning. He found small grips and used his momentum wisely, moving slowly but steadily. Each step required focus and precision. When a panel swung unexpectedly, he adjusted instantly, gripping tightly and shifting his weight. By the time he reached the top, several aliens watching were murmuring in awe. He had done what seemed impossible under triple gravity. Next was the strength portion. A series of massive, irregularly shaped energy objects floated in midair, each heavier than the last. Trainees were to carry them across platforms that rotated and shifted. Many aliens tried to lift them directly and struggled, losing balance or dropping their objects. Arlen approached the first object, feeling the incredible weight press against him. His muscles screamed, his lungs burned, but he remembered human ingenuity. He adjusted his stance, bent his knees, and used leverage to shift the object little by little. Step by step, inch by inch, he moved each object to the next platform. His progress was slow but steady, and no one could take their eyes off him. By the end, he had completed the strength trial where others had failed. The next obstacle combined agility and strategy. Platforms, barriers, and energy grids appeared in random sequences, forcing trainees to move with extreme speed and precision. The grids pulsed unpredictably. Some retracting or swinging at the wrong moment could knock a trainee off balance. Arlane focused. He watched the patterns and predicted the movements, timing his jumps and steps carefully. Where others relied on raw speed, he relied on observation and calculation. Step by step, he crossed each barrier. Sometimes he paused for a fraction of a second to plan the next move. But every pause was deliberate. Every step was careful. Slowly, steadily, he navigated the entire section without a single mistake. Aliens gasped. After that came the puzzle section. Trainees were required to transport a heavy core through a maze while simultaneously solving an energy puzzle to unlock the next barrier. Many aliens struggled. Strength alone could not open the puzzle's mechanism. It required logic and clever thinking. Arlen approached carefully, examining the patterns and calculating the necessary moves. He lifted the core efficiently, adjusted his grip on small protrusions, and completed the puzzle with precision. Where others had tried brute force or rushed, he had used calm reasoning and careful movement. He emerged from the maze with a sense of quiet satisfaction, while the other trainees looked on, impressed. The final test was combat. Holographic opponents of multiple species appeared, simulating attacks from every direction. Arlen's body ached. Every movement felt heavier than the last. Yet he stepped forward with confidence. The holographic warriors lunged, swung, and attacked with surprising speed. Arlen dodged, rolled, and countered with careful timing, never overextending, never panicking. He anticipated movements, adjusted to their speed, and used clever strategies rather than brute force. He guided an opponent past a spinning energy barrier, using their own momentum to throw them off balance, then moved on to the next. One by one, the holographic warriors fell, or were outmaneuvered. Arlen had turned weakness into strength, and exhaustion into sharp focus. After combat, the instructors raised the final challenge. The trainees would now face the ultimate test. The gravity would increase to nearly 4 times normal, and a full obstacle course combining climbing, strength, puzzle, and combat awaited. Many aliens faltered, stepping back nervously. Arlen looked up at the massive course. His body was already tired, but his mind was alert. He had endured triple gravity. This was simply one more step. He stepped forward with determination, feeling the familiar weight press down on him. He climbed, lifted, and balanced. Every movement was calculated. When a swinging platform threatened to tip him, he adjusted his weight and used momentum to stabilize. When a heavy object blocked the path, he pushed and shifted it with careful leverage. When a puzzle appeared mid-course, he paused, studied it, and solved it efficiently. Every step, every action was deliberate. The other trainees watched, some stunned, some inspired. They had never seen a human move so carefully and so effectively under such extreme conditions. Halfway through, fatigue threatened to stop him. His arms trembled, his legs burned, and his lungs burned with each breath. But he refused to give in. He thought of every hardship humans had endured on Earth, every challenge they had faced and survived. He thought of his family, of his dreams, and of the determination that had brought him here. One step at a time, he moved forward, refusing to be broken. The final section combined all previous trials: a wall to climb, a heavy object to move, a puzzle to solve, and holographic warriors to defeat, all while maintaining balance on shifting platforms under nearly quadruple gravity. Other trainees had begun the section but were already struggling. Arlen approached calmly. He timed each jump, shifted each weight, solved each puzzle, and outmaneuvered the combat simulations. Step by step, he advanced where others had failed. When he finally reached the end, his body nearly collapsed under exhaustion. Sweat poured down his face, his clothes were soaked, and his muscles shook. uncontrollably. But he stood upright, chest heaving, and raised his hand in silent triumph. The arena erupted in applause. Instructors and trainees alike watched in awe. The four-armed, copper-skinned instructor stepped forward.
Human, he said slowly, you have done what no other trainee has done.
You have survived, adapted, and overcome every challenge. Your determination has proven that strength is not only measured by muscle, but by endurance, ingenuity, and spirit.
You have shown the galaxy that humans are extraordinary. Other instructors nodded, and some trainees approached to shake his hand.
Even the strongest aliens looked at him with respect and admiration. Arlen smiled faintly, exhausted, but proud. He had not only endured impossible gravity and challenges, he had also demonstrated the unique qualities of humanity: adaptability, persistence, and cleverness. After the ceremony, Arlen returned to his quarters. He sat quietly, thinking about the past few days. Each challenge had pushed him to the limit, yet each had also proven something vital. Humans could endure where others might fail. Humans could adapt where others relied only on instinct or strength. Humans could surprise the galaxy. He looked out at the stars, watching ships glide past the Academy, carrying beings from countless worlds. Arlen knew that humanity's place among the stars was not guaranteed, but it could be earned through courage, intelligence, and persistence. And he, a single human trainee, had taken the first step toward showing the galaxy the power of human determination. As he lay down to rest, his muscles still trembling from the day's exertions, Arlen whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning. There is more to learn, more to prove. Humans will continue to rise, no matter the challenge." The Academy was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of distant suns, and for the first time, Arlen allowed himself a small smile of pride. He had faced the impossible, endured extreme gravity, solved problems no one expected a human to solve, and outlasted the strongest of alien trainees. He had become a symbol, not just of human strength, but of human spirit. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, of course, but for now, Arlen closed his eyes, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. The universe was vast, filled with beings far stronger, faster, and more powerful than he could imagine. Yet humans had something unique: determination, creativity, and the courage to push beyond limits. And as long as he carried those qualities, there was no challenge too great, no obstacle too heavy, and no gravity too strong to hold him back. Arlen drifted to sleep, dreaming not of rest, but of the adventures yet to come, confident that humans would continue to astonish the galaxy in ways no one had ever imagined.